Warzone Season 3 has fixed a lot of problems with the game, and it's definitely brought a bunch of people back, me included. I've been having the best time I've had with Warzone since at least the days of Al Mazrah and DMZ. In particular, I think Verdansk has proven itself as being way more interesting than Urzikstan. Each of the points of interest actually feels unique, fights feel different at each one. And I also think removing those redeploy balloons and gulag tokens and redeploy flares has made a huge difference to the game. I really hope they don't go back down the same route of adding all of that stuff back in. Like, I hope we don't see competitive players complaining they're not getting enough kills or there's too many lulls in the action, and Raven going back to trying to find ways to make it easier for the best players to kill all the rest of us, because right now the game is way more fun than it was when we had all of that stuff. And one of the biggest new improvements that I think has been overlooked by a lot of people is the casual mode. I've only played like 3 games of it so far, but I've had a blast every time. It's a full game of Warzone, but you know there's only a handful of other human teams, all the rest are bots. It means anybody can go in there, get a bunch of kills, have some interesting games. You still have the fun tension of an end zone, but everybody actually gets to see the end zone, sort of regardless of skill. Like, pretty much everybody's going to get in there because all of the bot teams are going to die out, and then you're going to have those interesting fights at the end that I genuinely think a lot of players just don't see most of the time. I've heard in loads of comments that people have got back into the game because of casual mode and are actually able to have fun, that they've been playing with friends and relatives who they would never play the main modes with at all. And people have been saying, hey, I've never won a game of Warzone, but I've actually won games of the casual mode. I've actually been able to get kills in this. And that's awesome. Like, that is a win for absolutely everybody. It means more people playing the game. It means more money for Activision, so they'll be happy, I'm sure. And I think over time, a lot of people who play casual mode will decide they want a bit more of a challenge and head into the main mode. And that's awesome because it will slowly raise the player count. But there is a significant problem. There's something that I've noticed over the last, I would say, 2 or 3 days that I think could ruin Warzone all over again. And you probably already know what I'm going to say here. It's the cheaters. Like I predicted, for the first 2 or 3 days of Verdansk, I didn't see a single cheater. I didn't even see somebody who was suspicious. A couple of weeks ago, I did a video about the cheating problem on Urzikstan, and I gave like 14 examples of clips that ranged in how suspicious they were. Like, some of them weren't that suspicious at all and were easy to explain away. Some of them, I'm pretty much sure, were absolutely cheating. And I had a bunch of people in the comments saying, oh no, none of these people are cheating, none of this is suspicious. And the reason I disagreed with them, the reason I felt pretty strongly that they were wrong, is that I'm lucky enough to be able to play the game on PC and on PlayStation and on Xbox. And at various times I've gone to play the game on PlayStation, and when you play with crossplay off, so nowadays you could only play ranked doing that, but for a while you could just play it with crossplay off regardless, you didn't see people who could stick their aim onto you perfectly. You didn't see people who seemed to already know where you were before you came around the corner. You didn't have gunfights where it felt like nearly every fight the other person didn't miss a bullet. Instead, when you'd watch the kill cams or when you were spectating, you would see people correcting their aim. You'd see people swaying too far to the right or left and having to drag their aim back. You would see people fighting against recoil. And I know there's a bunch of people who say, oh, well, on console, loads of people are using Cronus Zens and people have ways to cheat on console. And maybe that's true, but you didn't see it. And so if I don't see it, personally, I don't care that much about it. If it's not affecting my experience, I'm not so bothered by it. I just knew that when I was playing on PlayStation with crossplay off, when I could find a game because the player population was a lot lower, I was coming up against people who were fighting in a way that I think of as fair. Like, every time I was dying, I would be able to see, oh yeah, they did miss a couple of shots, but they managed to hit a few shots on target and they hit more than me and they managed to kill me. Or, oh yeah, they took me by surprise, but I can clearly understand how they managed to find me. And then I would play the same game on PC, and lo and behold, I would go back to everybody I was fighting against seemed to be able to hit me with every single shot, and people would come and find me, or people would track me down or chase me or just take me by surprise, where when I was looking at the kill cam and then spectating them, I couldn't work out how they knew where people were. And when Verdansk launched and Season 3 launched, it felt like playing on PlayStation with crossplay off. It felt like every single kill cam, I would see people aiming very, very naturally. They would miss a couple of shots. If I sort of changed direction, it would take them a split second to realize and alter their aim. I felt like whenever somebody took me by surprise, I understood, I knew what they had done. I get that there's some people who are like, oh, it's all aim assist. You know, aim assist twitches when you're near a corner. Aim assist lets you lock onto people. But then if that was true, why didn't that happen on PlayStation when crossplay was off? To me, the big variable there, if you're playing console only, no crossplay, compared to playing on PC, obviously you've got the variation of there's going to be more people playing mouse and keyboard on PC, but also you're only going to have cheaters on PC. It's also worth noting that over the 2-week period that was around when I made that video of the 14 cheaters, I think I reported 5 people out of all of those clips. Because if I'm not sure, I don't tend to report somebody unless I'm like fairly confident. So I reported about 5 people, I think, and I got 4 reports back saying that action had been taken. So 4 of them had been confirmed in some way. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent there. Let's bring it back. So what I was saying is that when I was playing on Verdansk, for those first 3 or 4 maybe days of Season 3, I didn't see a single player who I thought was cheating. I didn't see a single player where I thought it looked suspicious what they were doing, or how they killed me, or their aim. And I was playing more Warzone than I ever had played. You know, I was playing 5-6 hour days, which I don't ever really do with Warzone. And I just didn't see anyone who I thought was cheating. And then a few days ago, things started changing. I saw 1 or 2, and actually it started off a little bit strangely, where it started off with people that were super blatant, like people who were just very obviously cheating, and one of them I saw them get kicked towards the end of the game, and then a couple of other people I just sort of reported as we went on. But it was strange that suddenly there were people who seemed like they were cheating in much more obvious ways than what I'd seen in Urzikstan. Just, you know, locking onto people, staring at them through walls and things like that. And then over the last few days, I've seen increasingly, maybe 1 in every 4 or 5 games, I've ended up getting killed by somebody that I thought was super suspicious and their aim just looks completely unnatural. Or when I've been spectating them, because I tend to spectate a lot if I'm playing solos. When I'm spectating, I've seen people who are finding people and seemingly not having to guess where anybody is. And that's something that I always think is a bit of a giveaway. If you're running around in the last few zones and you're not using UAVs or heartbeat sensor or anything, I mean, even if you are using UAVs, Ghost exists. But if you're not checking places where there's people likely to be and you're heading directly to where enemies are, that always makes me think, hey, you're probably doing something a little bit suspicious. So don't get me wrong, it's not as bad as it has been in the past. It's not like every game I feel like I'm dying to cheaters all the time. But it's definitely got to the point where I've seen a few people I'm pretty confident are cheating, and I've seen a lot more kill cams where there's people who I think are maybe a bit suspicious. People where it's like, I could believe it if it turned out they were cheating. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw them getting banned, but I don't feel quite confident enough to report it. Now to me, and I've talked about this before in videos, that's pretty much as bad as if there were definitely loads of people cheating. That doubt, once it gets into your mind, makes you start thinking every time you die it's not fair, and it just destroys the fun you're having in the game. Like, if I'm playing the game and every single time I die I think it's because the other person had an unfair advantage, that makes it a lot less tempting to go and search for another game, to start up another game, because it's like, well, what's the point? Sometimes you can get to a final circle when you're spectating, and it seems like sort of 3 or 4 people are cheating in that final circle, or there'll be a couple of people teaming in the final circle, and you just think, well, why am I even bothering playing this? Because I'm going to end up coming up against the cheaters anyway. Especially now the lobbies are back up to being 150 players, that makes it more likely that there's going to be cheaters in your lobby. Now, there are a few different explanations for this. There's a few things that I think would make it make sense to me. First of all is that there are less people playing than there were in those first few days. In the first few days, there was often over 100,000 people on Steam charts playing. Now, over the last couple of days while I've been playing, it's been more like 45,000. There's clearly a lot of people who came in to check out Warzone with Season 3 and Verdansk and all of that stuff and didn't carry on playing. So maybe things like skill-based matchmaking and stuff like that is having a harder time now, so I'm just getting put in this sort of general player pool where there are some people who are insanely good, and obviously if there are cheaters, they're also going to be in it. Whereas maybe when Warzone first came out with Season 3 and there was a lot more people playing, maybe I was less likely to get put up against them. Although saying that, I have been in games with people like Tactical Brit, Jaff, Benny Central, FIFA Kill. Someone on our team actually managed to kill FIFA Kill, which was awesome. But we've been in games with some of the like top players, and I've been in those same games where there's also been people who just go AFK in the middle of the match, or people who don't seem to know what they're doing at all. So I think right now skill-based matchmaking probably isn't working that well. Maybe because there's kind of less people playing. Like I said, everyone's just grouped in together. It feels like, yeah, the skill-based matchmaking isn't particularly strong right now. Another possible explanation I've heard from a couple of people is that maybe it took the people who are really good a few days to adjust to the game. I don't think that's the case. Personally, I don't think Warzone has changed that much in terms of how you aim, how you move in a gunfight and stuff like that. I know they've slowed people down a little bit, but aiming at least doesn't feel any different to me at all. If anything, it's a bit easier because the Growl, the AMAX, they feel super easy to use, super easy to hit your shots with. So I don't think it's a case of people adapting and people suddenly getting better. What I think is the most likely explanation for all of this is something that I actually said would happen before Season 3 came out, and that's that whenever they talk about there being a big new Ricochet update, whenever there's a big update for Warzone, I think a lot of the cheat manufacturers, a lot of the cheat sellers tell their customers, hey, don't use our cheats for a few days, because they don't know what's going to get detected anymore. They don't know what's going to get people banned. So I think they sort of pause things for a little bit while they can do their tests. And so we had a few days where basically nobody was cheating, which was absolutely awesome. And now I'm guessing a lot of those cheat makers have told their customers, yep, you're good to go. We're pretty sure they're not going to get detected. You can start cheating again. And now we're seeing a lot of those same people who were cheating before in Urzikstan have just gone right back to cheating on Verdansk. Now this particularly sucks because during Season 2, when we weren't getting much content for Warzone, we did hear a lot from Activision of them saying, oh well, everything's going into Season 3, Ricochet's going to get some big upgrades for Season 3, we're going to be doing loads in the future. It was that kind of, oh yeah, we know it's bad now, but we're trying to fix it, we're trying to get on top of it, it's going to be better in the future. And my experience of the game over this sort of last week or so has been that it's just not got better. That I don't think it's got that much better at all. I think there's probably about the same number of cheats playing the game now as there were at the end of Urzikstan. And that sucks. It does make me less interested in playing. Right now, the fact that I'm having some more fun in Warzone just because the map's better and, you know, no redeploy balloons and stuff like that actually makes it a bit harder for cheaters maybe. I feel like there's a lot of reasons the game's a bit more fun right now. But if it gets to the point where I start seeing cheaters every match, then it's just going to stop me from wanting to play. And I'm sure it's going to stop a lot of other legitimate players from wanting to play, or it's going to push them into thinking that it's normal and they'll get cheats as well. And then it'll just go down the same sort of direction it went before, where cheating becomes kind of normal, just sort of a part of Warzone that you have to put up with. Now, normally at the end of these videos, I just say in the comments, please let me know what you think about this. What I would really love in the comments of this video is anybody who cheats in the game, let us know. Have you started cheating again in Verdansk? Has the cheat started working again? Have you been told that you're allowed to start cheating? What's changed for you? I would be super interested to hear from people who cheat. And this isn't like a witch hunt thing. I'm not going to try and victimize you or anything like that. Use a throwaway account if you want. Whatever you want to do. Send me a message on Twitter. But I would love to hear from people that do cheat as to, has it suddenly become easier to cheat compared to when Season 3 first came out? Or maybe I'm just going crazy. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And please do check out casual mode in Warzone. It's a lot of fun and I really hope people support it and it just sort of becomes a permanent fixture in Warzone. I hope it isn't something that they take away. But if you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you for the next one. Goodbye.